As of Wednesday, March 27th, 2019, this planet was officially inhabited by the first batch of adults who could honestly say that there was never a WCW show in their lifetime, in which the final image of a promotion breathing its last breaths was a father and son having a pissing match with 975 miles of terrain in between them. What was once a thriving, exciting wrestling product had decayed and rotted so badly that in the end, it had become nothing more than a stomping grounds for WWE to get their stories across. XWF, World Wrestling All-Stars, Total Nonstop Action, and others have popped up since with different attempts to fill the WCW void with varying degrees of success. None of them, however, have quite clenched the McTesticles with an iron grip as strong as WCW once had. And while certain elite figures in the wrestling industry will soon be staging their own promising alternative in the very near future, WCW, for all its foibles, is still the gold standard of WWE nemeses, for its history, its longevity, and its legacy. I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and here are 10 things you didn't know about WCW. Join us! Number 10. Pull the plug. World Championship Wrestling had a rather adamant respirator in the form of eccentric maverick Ted Turner. The media mogul had long held an affinity for wrestling, as it had long been an audience hit and cornerstone of his TBS superstation. After buying WCW from Jim Crockett Jr. in the fall of 1988, Turner vowed to keep wrestling on his airwaves, even going so far as to promise the wrestlers who worked for him that as long as he was the head of the operation, WCW would continue living. And while Turner may have had a soft spot for wrestling, those in his cabinet did not. WCW had been a money loser in perpetuity, and finding willing advertisers for something stigmatized as low-class redneck entertainment had long been an exercise in futility. According to Guy Evans's book Nitro, a May 1995 meeting with his officials saw Turner open a sentence with what sounded like him announcing the end of WCW, leading to several suits openly celebrating, including Turner Entertainment Group president Scott Sasser. That's when Turner informed Sasser that he was now going to oversee wrestling on TNT, seen as the classier of Turner's two major networks. The suits in the room weren't so happy at that announcement. Number 9. Clapping back. One of the positive parts of WCW's legacy was this little thing called Clash of the Champions. On 35 occasions between 1988 and 1997, WCW presented what amounted to a pay-per-view but on basic cable. Major title matches, blow-offs, hot angles, match of the year candidates, you got them all at the Clash, especially in the earlier years. The first Clash broadcast saw NWA World Champion Ric Flair make a star out of a 29-year-old Sting during a 45-minute draw, far outclassing anything from WWE's WrestleMania 4, which aired at the same time. And that is why we got the Clash in the first place: revenge. Vince McMahon had already tampered with Jim Crockett's pay-per-view ambitions by creating Survivor Series to put up against Starrcade, and airing the USA Network Royal Rumble to counter Bunkhouse Stampede. Crockett then counter-programmed against the 14-man WWE Championship Tournament and put another clash against WrestleMania 5 a year later, that one featuring a 56-minute Flair Steamboat epic. Number 8. Show me the money. As noted in the intro, WCW had problems with their viability. Sponsors treated wrestling like it had the plague, and the general southernness of the product was considered by Madison Avenue types to be a bit of a turn-off. Various WCW wrestlers and employees have noted the stigma that they carried around Turner circles, that wrestling was the unwanted stepchild for a conglomerate that cherished its expansive film library, original programming, and sports properties. Another reason that WCW was looked down upon was that it was a money loser. Through 1994, under Turner's watch, the company had never once turned a profit. That finally changed in 1995 when, under Eric Bischoff's watch, the company managed to finish in the black for the first time ever, after 7 years of Turner sitting atop the food chain. It's little wonder why the other key executives wanted wrestling gone from its sanctum. Not only did they not care for it, but it wasn't even profitable. The company would go on to continue this positive trend, later turning over $30 million in profit in 1998. Number 7. Going to extremes. When WCW Nitro began to horsewhip Raw in the ratings on a weekly basis, much of their success stemmed from the unpredictability factor, the sense of danger created by the awesome force known as the New World Order. Faction warfare was a big deal in professional wrestling at the time, as evidenced by WWE pushing the likes of the Hart Foundation, DX, and The Nation strongly in 1997. But the NWO and its chaotic insurgency were the standard bearers, so point to WCW there. But in 1997, another invading army could have made its way into Turner's backyard. ECW. Details have long been hazy, but stories persisted for some time that the original ECW owner, Todd Gordon, was assisting several Philly-based talents in a covert trek to WCW through intermediary Terry Taylor, without Paul Heyman's knowledge. Various names, including the Sandman, Tommy Dreamer, Rob Van Dam, Sabu, Bill Alfonso, and others, were allegedly inquired about a jump. But either way, the reported plans fell through when Heyman caught wind and called up Taylor to confront him directly. An ECW invasion of WCW, though, could you imagine? Surely it'd be better than those vignettes they shot at Raven's mansion. Number 6, the ultimate showdown of ultimate density. In one of the most memorable builds to a World Championship match in wrestling's long annals, Sting silently patrolled WCW events as a muted crusader, watching the every move of the New World Order and its leader Hollywood Hogan bat in hand. Inactive as a wrestler for over 15 months, Sting finally returned to action on his terms, in a title match against Hogan at Starrcade 1997, where he would right all of the NWO's wrongs, and then they fudged up the match. Oh well. You can't win them all. The build was something else though, and it led to Starrcade 97 becoming the most purchased pay-per-view in WCW history. An estimated 700,000 households tuned in to see the Sting-Hogan showdown, nearly 300,000 more than the previous record holder, that year's Halloween Havoc. Even then, that 700,000 only goes so far next to its rival. Compared to WWE's all-time pay-per-view list, Starrcade 97 would rank number 18 in terms of most buys, tied with SummerSlam 1998. Number 5, filled beyond capacity. If you think today's WWE is needlessly bloated with every professional wrestler on planet Earth not named Rhodes or Jackson, go back in time and check out the situation World Championship Wrestling was in come 1999, when the wheels had come off and the flaming vehicle was sailing over the cliff. The company had acquired so many wrestlers over the preceding years that they really didn't know what to do with them all, and I mean really, genuinely didn't know what to do with them. They didn't have a clue. At one juncture in 1999, over 250 wrestlers were under contract, with many of them being flown in for TV tapings and not even being used. WCW lost $15 million that year, which is peanuts compared to the over $60 million they lost in 2000, and part of that can be attributed to the irresponsible deployment of resources. Around the time Vince Russo joined the company that fall, releases began en masse, including the likes of The Sandman, Barry Darsow, Eric Watts, Ed Leslie, Mikey Whipwreck, Ultimo Dragon, Mike Enos, Barry Horowitz. Really, we could genuinely be here for hours. And here's a little cheeky bonus. Lanny Poffo, the brother of Randy Savage, had been under contract for over 4 years with WCW, never wrestled once, was never booked to even appear for the company, and collected regular paychecks anyway. Because WCW. Number 4, we are the champions. Viewers of WWE during the Attitude Era may recall the breakneck speed in which titles changed hands. IC champion on Monday, belt lost on Sunday, tag champ at the pay-per-view, gold no more 2 weeks later, and the hardcore title, man, don't even go there. And while it was pretty bad on the Vince side of the fence, WCW developed a little bit of a problem of its own in the Russo era, specifically the year 2000. When looking for a true face of the company to lead the operation forward into the new millennium, they seemingly auditioned everybody available. Counting a staggering 6 vacancies, the WCW heavyweight title changed hands 25 times in the year 2000. 11 different men held the belt, including Bret Hart, Chris Benoit, Sid Vicious, Kevin Nash, Jeff Jarrett, Diamond Dallas Page, David Arquette, how could we forget, Ric Flair, Booker T, Vince Russo, the man himself, and Scott Steiner. And as noted, the belt was vacated 6 times, including 3 times in January alone. The 76 days in which Sid held the belt from January to April 2000 represent the longest continuous reign for that calendar year. And that's not even 3 whole months. Number 3, but with a whimper. Eric Bischoff almost got the chance to play savior. Along with investors from Fusient Media Ventures, in January 2001, Eazy-E signed a letter of intent to purchase WCW, removing it from the auspices of the hopelessly inept people currently lording over it. The sale would have been theoretically completed that March, and WCW would have entered a temporary shutdown phase before relaunching in May. However, the cancellation of WCW programming led to Bischoff and Fusient understandably backing out out of the sale. But had it gone through with Bischoff as the henchman once more, WCW would have relaunched with a pay-per-view on May 6, 2001 called The Big Bang, and it would be subtitled The Creation of the New WCW. In addition to this planned cosmic comeback, the remodeled WCW would have done weekly TV tapings at the Hard Rock Cafe in Las Vegas, and Joey Styles was even in negotiations to leave behind ECW's smoldering corpse to become the voice of the company's new era. But with one swift TV-based decision, none of this, unfortunately, came to fruition. Number 2, this is the end. For many fans, the final image of what constituted WCW aired on that final Nitro in March 2001, when Shane and Vince McMahon enhanced their WrestleMania-bound rivalry via Shane's covert purchase. In reality, though, WCW's dying gasps were hardly as captivating and exciting, and in fact were downright upsetting. Less than 48 hours after the McMahon melodrama played out, reality hit hard for WCW's soon-to-be unemployed workforce. A meeting was held at WCW's power plant in Smyrna, Georgia, where after a brief speech from some WWE rep, the employees were given boxes and told to collect their possessions from the offices, before discussing their severance packages with the Turner representatives. Their computers and email accounts were already shut down and their ID cards immediately deactivated. Security even rummaged through everybody's boxes, their personal belongings, to make sure that they weren't stealing anything. The possibility of a WWE WCW holy war may have excited us fans, but for the people that were actually part of WCW, there was no joy to be had. And number 1, life after death. Most assume that WCW as a standalone entity died the day that Vince McMahon put pen to paper and acquired the video library and various intellectual properties. And as far as most are concerned, the year after the dash on WCW's tombstone reads 2001. But that's not actually entirely true. If you go back to the fall of 2017, when AJ Styles was WWE Champion, the Houston Astros were celebrating their first World Series victory, and Episode 8, The Last Jedi, was nearing its release, if you can believe it, WCW was kinda, sorta, still alive. After McMahon made his acquisitions, what was left of WCW was renamed the Universal Wrestling Corporation, which happens to be the name it was briefly known as following Ted Turner's 1988 purchase. This UWC entity existed as a subsidiary of AOL Time Warner, and existed solely as a vessel to handle various unsettled lawsuits and contract issues. But on December 5th, 2017, UWC was reabsorbed by Turner Broadcasting, having satisfied its outstanding legal issues. And that's perhaps the most fitting end of all for WCW. It continued to exist for more than 16 years without most even realizing.
Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.